Welcome to Season 5 of the Let's Talk Data podcast series, presented by SAP, where we explore game-changing technologies with leading experts.
Hello, welcome to our Let's Talk Data podcast series. This is your channel run by SAP experts who discuss topics around data and data management. My name is Volker Hantjes. I am Senior Director, SAP HANA Product Marketing, and I'm going to be your host today. And with me, I have two of my favorite colleagues who are going to introduce themselves very soon. However, just upfront, let me do a disclaimer, because today we are going to talk about data privacy. And this is a very special topic. So the disclaimer is this is not going to be a legal advice, because we are not entitled to give legal advice on security topics. So just please keep it up and listen to our experts on this exciting session. And the subtitle of today's session is The Hidden Champion. So back to the introduction. I have with me Kristin and Stephan, my dear colleagues from SAP Development. Kristin, please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Kristin. I'm the solution manager for the HANA data privacy option. So that incorporates data anonymization as well as data masking. I'm very happy to talk about these topics today with you guys.
And I'm Stephan. I am the lead developer for the SAP HANA data anonymization feature, and I'm excited about talking about data privacy today.
Yeah, and as a team, we help companies maintaining data privacy for their employees and customers, while staying compliant with data protection and privacy regulations. So to get started, as a warm-up, I have thought about to just get a feeling on the sensitivity of private data and sensitive data. So when I think about myself, when it's about geodata, I know I have my geo-tracking feature in my smartphone enabled all the time, but sometimes I believe not everybody should know where I am right now, and maybe it, let's say, for medical services or anything which is really of private nature. So, Kristin, do you also have a good example maybe about private data that you do not want to share with others?
Yeah, exactly. As you're saying, the practitioner is actually a good example, because whenever you go to the doctor and whatever diagnosis you have, you don't want that diagnosis to be shared with anybody else, not with third parties. You really want to keep that between you and your doctor. So there we can see how important it is to really adhere to data privacy.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other hand, it happens all the time that private data becomes accessible to third parties, and there are multiple ways. And Stephan, looking from a technology angle, probably, what is the challenge here from your perspective?
Well, the actual challenge of just storing the data or even sharing the data, regardless of its amount, that's not a big deal nowadays. However, I mean, of course, you could think about sharing such kind of data, whether it's personal sensitive, could also lead to a lot of innovations. Would imagine, for instance, if you look at the healthcare data Kristin was mentioning, and of course, I don't want to share that, but we could think about a lot of innovations and advances in healthcare if we could share such kind of data, while at the same time, of course, privacy is very important, if not the most important concern here.
All right, so this then ends up in a question about technology. Would technology help us resolve this question or resolve this issue on keeping trust? How do we share our data and keeping it maintained and keeping it protected at the very same time, while giving others the opportunity to benefit from its value? So this is exactly what we want to talk about today. All right, so Kristin, what comes to your mind on data privacy? Do you have some personal experience where you were struggling with data privacy regulations, or how to deal with your private data?
Okay, so when we think about signing contracts, it's always that we're faced with a lot of material and a lot of information on data privacy, and you usually have to give consent to different terms that your data can be used in order for you to receive personalized offerings. So there's always the question of, do I accept that? So I do receive those personal offerings, or do I decline the usage of my data, of my private data so that I won't receive those offerings. So there's always this trade-off, and it's so difficult to make that decision. On the one hand side, we want our data to be protected and not be used, but on the other hand, we do want these personal services to be received by ourselves. So it's, I think, a very complicated question, and everybody kind of faces this also when we go online, because for just about any website, we're now asked to accept cookies. And there we have exactly the same undergoings where we're having to accept cookies in order to have a more personal browsing or web surfing experience.
Yeah, right. And you never know where this data goes to when you say accept, right? And there's no transparency and therefore no trust.
Yep.
That's the thing. Yeah. And thank you, Kristin. Stephan, as a consumer, I'm frequently asked to share my data. However, in many cases, this is completely untransparent to me. And I am lacking trust in sharing this into an anonymous environment. So can you give us your impression? Why this mistrust and what does it need to me as a consumer that I can trust in such a situation?
Yeah, I mean, all day we share a lot of personal data, say, speaking of loyalty points, speaking about a geo-tracking feature you mentioned, Volker, and we don't really think about that. But once we look at the data trace we have there and we don't know what happens with it, this feeling of mistrust because it's not transparent actually arises. Whether at the same time actually sharing data would be very important to foster innovations. But since we don't trust, we end up at the odd situation of not wanting to share data because of these privacy issues. And I mean, from my point of view, if we had technology in place that could help us here, that could help to maintain my privacy, this would finally help to increase the trust and make more data available at the same time.
Okay, so let me get back to Kristin's dilemma. What if there was a technology that combines both upsides, keeping the privacy of my data while giving others the opportunity to get insight without the downsides of lost privacy and not having insight? So that's the point here, I think. I was told you developed a technology called data anonymization that does exactly that, combining both advantages without the disadvantages. Can you let us know more about that, please?
Yes, certainly. We developed a feature called SAP HANA Data Anonymization, which can actually be applied to many different industries and many different use cases.
And the effect is tremendous because the data, the person-sensitive data collected that was previously not accessible to those data protection and privacy laws and regulations, of course, is now available while we protect the privacy of the individuals at the same time. And this technology can, of course, help to foster innovation as well as to increase trust of our customers.
So now that's exciting. So now the champion isn't hidden anymore. How does this data anonymization work? Let me know.
So what we can do is that we are rendering the information not sensitive anymore by being able to re-identify one particular individual in the end. And this is really the critical part, that we disconnect the data from its owner, and we will still remain with the business value in the end. And the good thing is, if we apply data anonymization, then we're not subject to GDPR or other data privacy laws and regulations. And so the data, since it's not personal anymore, can actually be used for machine learning or analytics purposes and use cases.
So you still have the business value in the data, but you don't have the relationship to the privacy to the individual, right? So this means you can run reports about it and then work it without getting into conflict with GDPR. Did I get this right?
That's correct.
So, okay, that sounds exciting. I definitely want to know more about how this works in detail. Stephan, could you give us some more insight here, please?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different technologies in SAP HANA. One of them is called Canonimity, and it's very basically about hiding individuals in a crowd. So coming from the situations that certain information about yourself might make you unique, say, for instance, a combination of your age, the zip code you're living in, your hair color, things like that. we make sure that in the data set, at least a couple of persons have the same attributes, which basically hide yourself within a number of individuals, so no information in particular can be relinked to you as an individual.
Okay, got it. So let's say it's a very simple example. If I'm the only guy in the classroom who has a red shirt on, and the teacher always said, hey, the guy with the red shirt, and then I tell my neighbor, why don't you pull on a red shirt yourself? And then I'm hidden in the crowd of people wearing red shirts, right? And I can't be identified anymore as a single person with that attribute. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's what's happening on database level. And of course, it's not about changing a lot of data. It's just to making sure that once we change data, we have the privacy guarantee of at least a couple of persons wearing that red shirt or a couple of persons having the same attribute. So we end up at a situation where we might have less precise data. So for instance, not an exact age rather than an age cohort of a specific person, but we still can get valid insights from it.
Right, exactly, because I don't want to know the exact age of a person, but let's say I want to know if someone is younger than 50 or older than 50, if a certain, let's say, medication would apply or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the situation.
Got it. Exactly. Okay. It's not so difficult. So then the other technology used here is differential privacy. I was told this has something to do with noise. Can you enlighten this one also, please?
Yeah, there are various methods and research out there. And once was the Canonimity part, as we just discussed, and the second very well-known method is differential privacy, and it's basically a technology that randomizes data in a sense that certain information is blurred, that it doesn't make any sense anymore for a specific person. On the one hand, we add random values which make single data sets, single values not usable anymore. But again, coming to the situation of having a larger group of that data, for instance, the average of the values stay intact. So the more data I aggregate, the more precise the answers will be. The less data I aggregate, the less I do know about the persons involved in that particular aggregate. Making the example of the average salary. So if you take a smaller group, we wouldn't know any detail about the salary of that group. However, if we make a larger group, the resulting average salary becomes more precise.
That sounds fantastic. And okay, I assume the larger the data set is, the more secure the technology is, right? Or the more reliable?
Well, actually, reliable in a sense that we get precise answers for the data we need, but for any individual, it is ensured that the same privacy properties, of course, hold. So each individual will be as private as possible, even though the data set is small, but of course the answers will be not as precise as possible, or let's say as accurate as possible compared to the original data.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm just thinking, when it's about data privacy, I also often heard technologies such as pseudonymization. So as far as I know, this is where you just replace names by random numbers, for instance. And I was told this is not enough to have a proper anonymization that is recognized by authorities like the EU. So for really ensure that de-identification is not possible. So can you give a little explanation what makes data anonymization different from, e.g., pseudonymization?
Yeah, so in fact, it is completely correct. So when you pseudonymize data, you're basically taking the names of Volker, Stephan, and Kristin, and you're replacing it with random numbers. So for example, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, 7, or things like that. And the problem is that we still have attributes to ourselves that are not hidden and that are not, hidden in a group. So if I would know Volker or if I know Kristin, then I would still be able, based on these other attributes that are still available in the data set, that I would be able to identify that particular person. And that's what we want to prevent when using data anonymization. So since we're able to re-identify one particular person, data masking or pseudonymization still falls under privacy laws and regulations.
Okay, that is cool. So I'm really excited about this technology. So that would really mean I have all my private data in my business database, which I had locked because GDPR tells me I can't use it anymore. But now when I apply this smart technology in it, I might still run my reports on it without violating any data privacy regulations. So that is just amazing. Wonderful thing. So now that we learned all this exciting information, I can't wait to get my hands dirty. So how can I, as a user or customer, get actually access to this? Stephan, can you tell us?
Yeah, it's technology embedded in SAP HANA. So every customer using SAP HANA can apply it right away. Of course, once there's the correct version out there, it's available on premise as well as in the cloud. And it's also available, if you don't have a HANA yet, within SAP HANA Cloud trial. So you can just kind of go ahead and register for the trial license, and you're good to use SAP HANA data anonymization.
So you were saying I can sign for a trial for free and I can get started right away in the SAP Cloud?
Yes, exactly. So you sign up for that trial license or SAP HANA Cloud trial instance, and then you get a full-blown database where you can, for a couple of days, try out certain features, including SAP HANA data anonymization, and can follow the examples we have on our website.
Wow, that's amazing. So as I've seen, we have a website out there running www.sap.com/HANA Cloud, where it's very prominently placed that you can apply for a HANA Cloud trial license. So to all the listeners, if you can't wait to try this out, just go there and apply for this trial. So get started right away. Fantastic. So can you let us maybe a few examples of how customers achieved benefits with this technology, Kristin?
Okay, so as we talked a lot about healthcare already, I was wanting to make one customer example that we're currently working on. And actually, it's about a hospital that approached us around about in July last year. And they asked us if we could anonymize COVID-19 patient data. And that for us, I mean, was quite a challenge, obviously, because it's patient data and we've previously stated how sensitive it is. And the thing was like that due to the amount of data that had been collected at this particular hospital, there was a certain learning from curing COVID-19, meaning that different ethnical backgrounds, different preconditions led to different treatments. And the hospital said it would be fantastic if we could share that data so that other practitioners, research institutes, and other hospitals even could access that database and understand how to best cure patients that have certain preconditions. And this is exactly what we worked on. So we anonymized that data so that we had this kind of, let's say, shareable database so that other healthcare institutions were able to access the data in order to better understand how to cure patients that fell ill of COVID-19.
So you are saying data anonymization really has the potential, or is actually really now working on helping us getting a cure, a therapy, or a treatment that helps up with the global pandemic. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is definitely also contributing to helping saving lives from people that have fallen ill of COVID-19.
That is nothing but amazing. Wow. Thanks for sharing, Kristin. That is very impressive information. Okay, Kristin, can you probably share another example from a different industry?
Sure. For example, in the sports industry, imagine you go to a football game or a basketball game and you really like to wear, that particular jersey, but it's like for that provider that sells the jersey, how does he know what is in the best interest of his fans, of his customers, really? So if he'd be able to, to better understand, to actually analyze the data that's coming from fans, it would be tremendous in order to really target the offerings that can actually be made to fans, because maybe the wearing of the jersey is not what fans actually want. Maybe they actually just want to have a banner, or they want to have a pair of trousers with their favorite team. So, if you would better understand your customers or your fans in this case, you could really better target the different products and the different services you're offering to your fans.
Amazing. Once again, an exciting example. And I think to the audience, this shows us that data anonymization is not just a geeky technology or rocket science. It's really helping very urgent, it's helping resolving very urgent daily problems, and it's also helping the actual consumer, or even if it's the sports guy, to get to information they otherwise would not have been able to get access to, and would also enable interesting business applications or just even informative information portals to the public. So a great technology, and apart from getting the trial license, that would help if you're the developer, but if you're a daily consumer or a business guy who just want to affiliate him or herself on this technology and read some examples, see some demos, see some educational videos, maybe, Kristin, where do you think can we send the people to learn more about this?
So there is actually a website, HANA Data Anonymization, which can be accessed there. We have a lot of brochures, tutorials, links to videos that we have on YouTube. And there's also the SAP HANA Journey website that has a section, a learning track on data anonymization. And there actually it's a step-by-step guide almost, with videos and some written blogs on how to really set up the features, the views, and to really use data anonymization.
Wonderful. So something there for any taste, you say, huh? That is exciting. So now, given I might be a business person, or maybe I'm also an app developer, and I have an idea, a use case for data privacy I have in mind, and I would like to discuss it with an expert. Who could I turn to?
Yeah, sure. Reach out to us because, as Kristin mentioned, 2 different use cases beforehand. There are tons of opportunities out there, and we are very excited to hear about. And if you have certain questions, of course, also to help you. So feel free to reach out to us personally, for Kristin or myself, or of course to your sales representative to get more information and get in touch.
So you're saying I can share your mobile phone number and email address de-anonymized to anybody who's asking?
Exactly, something like that.
All right, I'll count on me. I will do that, and be prepared for the big wave to come here. I'm sure if people can't wait when they hear this podcast to learn more about it and get their hands dirty. Okay, to close, all this data protection and privacy concerns each and every one of us. I think this is the learning from today's talk here. This is why we need to ensure that our data is treated with digital responsibility. And during this podcast, we discussed that the careful and trustworthy processing of personal data is possible, while at the same time being able to analyze or initiate machine learning scenarios with such data. We look forward to having you joining the next Let's Talk Data podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Kristin and Stephan, for all the valuable information you provided. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Volker.
Thank you. Bye-bye.